This is our 2005 Reininger Cima, and it's a very special wine because in a way it's actually one of our first deviations from being Bordeaux-centric. When I first started the winery, I thought I'd be Bordeaux-centric, but this just kind of fell in my lap. In 1999, when I was actually crushing my first Syrah, Norm McKibben, who is a general partner of Seven Hills Vineyard, gave me a call and asked me if I wanted some Sangiovese, and this was some of the first Sangiovese off of Seven Hills Vineyard, and I'd never worked with it before, so I thought, yeah, sure, what the heck, why not? About 9 o'clock at night, I went down to Seven Hills, picked up this ton and a half of Sangiovese fruit, and brought it back. And so we crushed it that night, and a couple days later we had a full fermentation going, and it looked like strawberry pop, really foamy, and I absolutely hated it. It just tasted horrible. I put it to barrel thinking, oh man, this is gonna be the first wine that I'm gonna sell to another winery bulk. And again, this is in 1999. Well, a few months later, about 3 or 4 months later, I opened up the barrel and the wine started taking a little bit more color, and just these beautiful aromatics began to blossom from the barrel. And it actually was evolving into something that I absolutely loved. So then my issue was, what am I gonna do with this wine?
It was one of those wines that he kept in the cellar a long time, and we were all wondering what he was going to do with it. But he ended up keeping it in barrel for like 5 years.
I started thinking of the great Super Tuscan wines, and Super Tuscan is anything Sangiovese blended with anything Bordeaux, generally speaking. And so I thought, that's what I'll do with it. So we blended it with some Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Cab Franc. It's generally, the Cima is 50% Sangiovese, and it just turned out to be just a gorgeous wine.
Cima means top of the mountain or summit or peak in Italian, and it just reminds me of our winemaker, Chuck Reininger. He was a guide on Mount Rainier, and he's a big mountain man and a very adventurous winemaker. So that's where the name Cima came from, and I also think it's one of our best peak wines. And we release it kind of when it's at its peak, after it had sat in a barrel for 5 years, and then in a bottle for at least a year and a half. So it's always my favorite blend, and we're getting ready to release the 06 now that it's 2012.